D. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked. I'm getting my digital medias crossed again. 3 of them in the last 12 hours. Yeah, because I was on WBCB last night with the great Bernie Perrant. If I seem like I'm in a better mood today, it's because I was hanging out with Bernie Perrant last night. You can't not be in you can't not be in a fantastic mood after you hang out with Bernie Perrant for an hour. It's always great to see Bernie. Talk a little pucks with the Frenchman. Anyway, we got a lot to get into today. Baseball, it's going to start up. And just in time for baseball to start up, Ranger Suarez has a back issue. Could force him out of the rotation to start the season. And what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what that means. That means old Taijuan Walker. Most likely. I'm going to go ahead and say very likely. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to happen. Taijuan Walker's going to be in your rotation to start the season. Ain't that great? And hey, look, I was trying to be all optimistic about Taijuan Walker when the spring training started. And I was like, oh, he's popping the mid at 92.8 miles per hour. Oh, whoop-a-de-doo, right? Yeah. What did he do after we got the news that that Ranger Suarez is likely going to be out here? Well, he went 3 2/3 yesterday. He gave up, 6 runs, all of them earned on 9 hits in 3 2/3. Oh, 3 home runs to go along with that. Taijuan Walker, good to see you. Anyway, Brandon Marsh homered. That's nice. Anyway, Phillies will be starting. Good times. Several new Philadelphia. Let's see. Aziz Ojulari, Adore Jackson, Zack Baun, and Lane Johnson addressed the media yesterday. All had wonderful little nuggets to drop in here and there. Adore Jackson talking about how they're still playing rock, paper, scissors at the NovaCare complex. What's the secret to winning? Apparently, rock, paper, scissors. That's the secret to winning. This hasn't reared its head since everyone was making fun of it during pandemic when Nick Sirianni is trying to interview different players and see how competitive they are. He's playing rock, paper, scissors with Landon Dickerson. I, for one, absolutely, undoubtedly loved it. And apparently it's still going down. Zack Baun talks about how he never wanted to leave Philadelphia in the first place. And I kind of thought that'd be the idea. But he also talked about the foundation that's already here in Philly, because we've been talking about and focusing on a lot of players that have left because just about everybody on the defense is gone. And yesterday, listening to Zack Baun, it made me think about what that foundation is, and made me realize the foundation for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, especially on the defensive side of the football, is something that I am not at all used to. We've talked a lot this offseason so far, and even last year, about how the Eagles, their run is a ground game, which is a rarity in really football in general, especially with the Eagles. And then how linebackers are never something that's valued. And now what is valued above almost anything else other than quarterback play? A running back who not only signed a deal here with the Eagles last year, but just got an extension and a raise. But also the linebacker position, Zack Baun, is now the foundational piece, the cornerstone of your defense. Jalen Carter, great. Nakobe Dean, hoping he comes back healthy. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. seems to have a lot of confidence from this organization. And you've added some edge rushers as well. But the two position groups that we're going to be relying on the most next year is going to be running back and linebacker. I don't think we were relying on linebacker last year. We're just this Zack Baun guy. Apparently he's going to be a starter from the Saints. We'll see how he does. Nakobe Dean, always injured, plays the majority of the season and plays great. Better and better as the year went on. And then, unfortunately, injury happened again to Nakobe Dean. And Oren Burke stepped up and played very well. But it's wild to me that I am going into this next season. As of right now, the way things are set up, I'm going to have more confidence in the linebacking group than I am the defensive line. Like, take away edge rushers. You're talking about defensive tackles mostly. I'm going to have, I have more confidence as impactful players. Yeah, sure, Jalen Carter could be the most talented on the team, but who's stepping up after him? I am more confident in the linebacking group of this Philadelphia Eagles team than I am in the defensive line unit of this Philadelphia Eagles team. And I can't I don't know when I could last say that. It's a complete flip of philosophy when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles over the last 365 days. Invested highly in a linebacker, invested highly in a running back. What am I? Am I on crazy pills? This is bonkers, but this is where we are. And we've been focused a lot on the guys that have left, and rightfully so. How do you replace guys like that? Still looking for a new safety, for instance. You hope that you've filled tenfold the edge rusher position. You hope Nolan Smith takes that huge step forward, and where he can be the guy not only replaces Brandon Graham and how high a level he was playing at last year, but can also replace Josh Sweat. You also hope you have Josh Uche come up here, and he gets back to that 11.5 sack form. You have a guy, Aziz Ojulari, coming in here, who talks about his versatility yesterday. We'll let you hear that cut. You have these guys coming in here hoping that they could take that next step. Whoever you draft, hopefully they're NFL ready, baby, and ready to party. But Zack Baun chose to focus on who's still here. And I thought that was an interesting way to take it, because the question was about all these new guys. All these new guys are coming in here. It's a very different defense that was, one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFL last year, that had a dominant performance in the Super Bowl. Now, you're going to be back, but not many others. He's like, no, they found foundational pieces. I mean, you jump right to Quentin Mitchell. You talk about Cooper DeJean. You talk about Jalen Carter. You talk about Nolan Smith. Talk about Reed Blankenship. You're bringing in a veteran corner in Adoree Jackson, who is taking over for a veteran corner. I believe there's a slight upgrade there over Isaiah Rodgers. I believe there's a slight upgrade there over Keely Ringo. And for the way he was playing last year in terms of availability, maybe a slight upgrade there over Darius Slay as well. Because I don't have a lot of issues with the way Slay played last year. It was more so that he wasn't playing. Knee injury was always popping up throughout the season, leaving the game. And that was leading to a lot of playing time there for Isaiah Rodgers. That was a lot of playing time there for Keely Ringo in the beginning of the season when Rodgers was still dealing with an injury. So there are guys that you're going to be looking at that are very familiar here in Philly. And then there's other guys here that you're going to be asking to take a step up. And then there's other guys here that are going to have to make that new impact and impress some new teammates to keep the standard that has been set. And that was also one of the questions that Adoree Jackson got yesterday, which is, how do you fit in here in a Vic Fangio seat? How do you see yourself fitting in here with the personalities in the locker room? And how do you see yourself fitting in with Vic Fangio? You'll love his answer on that. Lane Johnson was very blunt. I referenced this yesterday. I got the GIF wrong. I apologize. It was the Fresh Prince GIF where Will Smith's just kind of looking around the house when it's all empty. And that was Lane Johnson yesterday. On Brandon Graham's retirement during that speech. Put that out there. Last guy standing. I got y'all. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey. I got y'all, right? Well, yesterday he was asked point blank, what's it like to be the last man standing? Is it going to be lonely? He's like, yes. Yes, it is. But he also got asked a question about the Hall of Fame. Like, Lane Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame. That's how this ends. Hopefully another Super Bowl championship or a couple. So he can tell all those guys, I got more than you, Jason Kelsey. I got more than you, Brandon Graham. I got more than you, Fletcher Cox. Hopefully there's a couple more Super Bowl rings, but it's definitely going to end in the Hall of Fame for Lane Johnson. So he signed a contract extension. Keeps him here through next year. And he also hinted yesterday talking about playing beyond this contract. How incredible would that be for Lane Johnson to play into his 40s? Yesterday I talked a lot about Brandon Graham, and the year that was 2010 was the Flyers losing the Stanley Cup Finals, the Sixers drafting Evan Turner, for crying out loud. Kevin Cobb started week 1 for that Eagles team in 2010 before he peeled the turf off his face mask. Talking all that yesterday. Lane Johnson was the first pick of the Chip Kelly era in Philadelphia. I credit, by the way, Howie Roseman for the pick. I don't credit. And I've always done that. That's not revisionist history. But think about how long his career has spanned here in Philadelphia. And he's already accomplished so much. He is a Hall of Famer. What more is there? And he wants to keep going. His basic attitude on it is, if I'm healthy enough to play, if I'm helping the team and not holding them back at all, then I'm gonna keep coming out. I'm just going to keep playing. I mean, I can remember John Runyon playing for the Chargers. My man Trey Thomas playing for the Chargers, for crying out loud. These guys just love playing football. And Lane is just going to keep going. He talked about how he was supposed to be Jason Peters' replacement when he was drafted. Yeah, no, that's Jason Peters kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, and then it's still going, and then retired, and then he was a coach. That's the way it happened. Lane Johnson just became a force at the right tackle position that Nick Sirianni can't stop calling the best right tackle in all of football, and it's hard to argue against it, especially now that he's got not one but 2 Super Bowl rings. And then think about this for a second. The rotating door of right guards next to him. We talk about turnover on the defensive side of the ball. At that. What about Lane Johnson? Talk about turnover next to him. And no matter who it is, he just keeps on balling. Just keeps on balling. Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, most recently Mekhi Becton, just Brandon Brooks retiring. Just keep cranking them out. Just keep cranking them out. Whoever's next to him just plays phenomenal football. Like it's nothing. The Tyler Steen, doesn't matter. Just put him in there. You'll be good to go. So when you talk about a guy like Kenyon Green coming in here to play next to Lane Johnson, yeah, okay. Yeah, put him in the revolving door of right guards that have played next to Lane Johnson, and they figure it out. Also, Jeff Stoutland being the head coach, being the offensive line coach doesn't hurt anything. But Lane is just talking about pushing through no matter what. Doesn't matter. Pushing through to the Hall of Fame. What more is there? What's left for you? Winning more and love of the game. That's basically how I answered that question yesterday. I found yesterday in an off season that hasn't had the big splash, so to speak. I found yesterday's media sessions to be very uplifting. And maybe that's just the Bernie Perron effect where I felt good. But I felt good watching him. As I was watching him, I felt good after talking to Bernie about the not-too-distant future of the Philadelphia Flyers. So I'll give you some tidbits from that as well. But plenty to get into today, mostly talking about what the Eagles have to offer for you. Also, less than a week now, your Philadelphia Phillies will be getting their season underway. Look forward to that. NCAA tournament officially gets underway today. I'll be at where will I be today? I'll be at the Crystal Tea Room around noon today for a little March Madness kickoff. Look forward to rubbing elbows and saying hi to some people over there at the Crystal Tea Room in Center City, Philadelphia. I'll be over there as the NCAA really gets underway. By the way, I know a lot of you watched St. Francis 2 days ago and Alabama State. I actually watched a decent amount of that game. My dad is a St. Francis graduate right there in the middle of Pennsylvania. So a little personal investment in that game. So that was fun to watch. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way the St. Francis contingent wanted it to end. All right, let's get into everything. We got so much to get into today. Appreciate you guys joining me here on the Farzy Show. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Farzy Show. See you guys in the chat already popping off. Love to see it. Let's start things off with Azeez Ojulari. Azeez Ojulari, we talked about a lot yesterday, signing a 1-year deal with the Eagles. He was asked, what is it that he does so well? You talk about getting after the quarterback when he's healthy, how well he could do that. He said that's not all. He's not a one-trick pony.
I feel like I'm a versatile player. I'm a physical guy. I don't shy away from no type of contact. I'm an attack-first type mentality guy. I can set the edge. I could tackle. I could rush the passer. I could bend. I feel like I could do it all.
I know some people are upset about Josh Sweat moving on. I am not one of those people. He played great in the Super Bowl. I told you guys, I went back, I watched his sacks in the Super Bowl. I watched a lot of his highlights in the Super Bowl. When it just not even came to the sack, when it came to the pass rush, when it came to getting at the line of scrimmage, dropping back in coverage, all that. And there's zero you could take in a negative way from Josh Sweat and the way he performed in the Super Bowl. One of my memories that I take from this season, and really in the last now, it's been 4 years now that I've worked with Seth Joyner during the football season and watching games with him. Every game he's talking about Josh Sweat not setting the edge. Every game he's talking about Josh Sweat cutting to the inside and not protecting the edge. I've had enough of it. I've had enough of that one-trick pony, Josh Sweat. I played well. I don't hate on the guy. He wasn't a scrub. He did one thing really well, and for the most part, negated a lot of other things. The Super Bowl was the exception of that, where he just couldn't do anything wrong. He was, as well as the rest of the defense, phenomenal in the Super Bowl. And my impression of watching him during the Super Bowl was, this is going to make people think that the Eagles should hold on to him, and they shouldn't hold on to him. And signing him to a $74+ million deal wouldn't be advisable for the Eagles. Go ahead, Arizona Cardinals. Good luck again, Jonathan Gannon. He's all yours. I feel right now, talent-wise, the Eagles have done a wonderful job of bringing in other adequate edge rushers, and especially a guy like Azeez Ojulari, who has all the potential in the world, all the talent in the world, has not stayed healthy enough to prove that he could do it over the course of an entire season. Other than his rookie year, 8 sacks, setting the rookie record there for the Giants, coming here to Philadelphia, says, he has talked to Saquon. He has talked to Nolan Smith, another Georgia player coming here to join another bunch of Georgia players. Said he's closest to Nolan Smith because they're both edge rushers, both in the same room for the last number of years, with the exception of last year and the year before, but closest with him. But you talk about the talent that he has and the ability that he has. Everything he's rattling off there, he can do. It's just a matter of whether or not he can stay healthy enough. I know there's a lot of theories out there when it comes to the artificial turf at MetLife Stadium, whether that has something to do with his injuries. You can certainly point to that. Maybe he'll be playing a little bit more on grass. Maybe that will push him in the right direction. I look forward to seeing what he could do here, but in the sport of football, you always have to mention, got to stay healthy. I think for the most part, that's something that people throw in as a throwaway line, almost a verbal pause. But then there's other people where you have to say it because it already has been their career. You're talking about a lot of games missed over a 4-year career on a rookie deal. Now he's getting a new opportunity here with the Eagles. There's a reason he's available for $4 million. There's a reason for that. It's because he's been banged up. You hope that he wanted to come here to Philadelphia because of the Vic Fangio school of thought. The reigning champion Philadelphia Eagles. Sure, I'm sure it helps that a lot of familiar faces are here already and his fellow Bulldogs. But maybe also the opportunity to play on some grass as opposed to that turf at MetLife Stadium also was something that drew him in here. The other idea is not many other offers. Not even from the team that, medically speaking, knew him better than anybody. And as I said, when the news broke, that's my huge concern. There's no team that knows him better than the New York Giants. Do I think the New York Giants are a smart football club? Absolutely not. But when it comes to injuries, nobody knows him better. And they just let him go. The other thing here on the defensive side of the football when it comes to a new face in the locker room is Adoree Jackson. I do think this is a nice upgrade over the potential that was Isaiah Rodgers, over the potential that was Keely Ringo. And you could even say maybe even an upgrade over Darius Slay because of how often Darius Slay was banged up this year. But Adoree Jackson was asked yesterday, and it all comes down to competitiveness, where he sees himself fitting in the Vic Fangio defense in a Philadelphia Eagles locker room.
Just being a football player, understanding scheme, seeing ball, watching tape, seeing the things that they do. Obviously, I did talk to Saquon. He's a competitor. He competes. And the first thing he said was, they just like you. Just let it compete. We compete at everything. And pretty much that's all I needed to know. As long as somebody want to compete, whether it's playing rock, paper, scissors, playing cards, we can be swimming, don't matter. As long as we compete and trying to get to it, I appreciate that. So that's the only preconceived notion that I had about the type of guys that were and how they competed. And then just watching tape, I've seen what they've done. I know Slay. I know he don't go by his first name, so I know Big Play Slay. And seeing the things that he's done and how he's done. Like you said, he was on his back end of his year. As you said, he's 34 and been playing at a high level. So one of those things that I do look at is seeing somebody who's doing it as high as he is and still doing it and is great at it. So.
Yeah, and you're talking about a guy 34 years old, and you're talking about now a 29-year-old that will be 30 within the first month of the season. So that's all the stuff that impressed him about here in Philadelphia. Coming here, talking to Saquon Barkley, someone that we would love for anybody that's new here to come and talk to, especially a former teammate. He did say he spoke to one other former Eagle, and it was a former teammate of his with the Giants. It's a name you don't want to hear, but it's a name that did have some success here in Philadelphia. Did play in the Super Bowl. Did get an unfortunate holding call in the Super Bowl. That's James Bradberry. He did talk to James Bradberry about coming here to Philadelphia. The culture and all that. He didn't get too in depth as to what the conversation was, other than just talk to him about coming to Philadelphia. Talking about a guy like Adoree Jackson who doesn't have a lot of interceptions, just 4 in his career. He does have Jalen Hurts in his book. He talked about how after getting his pick 6, it's the only pick 6 of his career was against Jalen Hurts 2 years ago. Said he needed oxygen, and when he was off the field, the Eagles just came right back and scored. So it didn't really do much for him, or the Giants in that matter, other than he got into the end zone, which is pretty baller, obviously. But needed oxygen after that. He talked about the great reputation that the Philadelphia Eagles have, and joining a secondary that already has 2 young stars. And he was asked about that point blank yesterday when it comes to Quentin Mitchell and it comes to Cooper DeJean. We've been talking about this offseason. Who is going to be that other corner? Where do you have the theory there of Cooper DeJean bounces to the outside in the base 4-3 and then goes back into the nickel and nickel defense? Who comes? Is it Keely Ringo? Who is it? Well, Adoree Jackson seems to be that guy. He's excited to have that young talent playing on the field with him.
I'm not going to lie. I really liked Mitchell. I remember saying it. I don't know what game we were watching on tape. I'm like, damn, I haven't seen a rookie play that well. It's been a while. And then Cooper doing his thing. Yeah, that was a trip. Because they had the thing about the first white DB to play since whatever. So to see him thrive and do his thing, and being a DB, it made me smile. So it's always cool to see somebody else, especially in the position that you're in, knowing how tough it is, and the stuff that you go up against. And to see those 2 thrive, especially at a young age, it put a smile on my face.
That is phenomenal. I absolutely love that. For someone from afar, and granted, you're in the same division, so you're going to see this team twice. You're going to see film. I mean, you're watching film mostly on the offensive side of the football to know their tendencies and what they do. Rarely are you watching the defense if you're a defensive player. But he took note of it throughout the season, and I'm sure since the deal got announced, or since I'm sure he found since he found that he was going to be coming here to Philly, he started familiarizing himself with what he was going to be playing in, not against. Hit the books, man. Continue to hit the books, continue to hit the tape, because if he can play at the veteran level, solid pro, not be a liability. I mean, my big take on it was, okay, I'm happy they got a proven commodity, but I don't remember going into Giants games ever being like, man, and Jalen's got to throw against Adoree Jackson. Oh, drat. Smitty, AJ, they got to go up against Adoree Jackson. Like, I was never, sweating about it. But good, solid pro. Good, solid pro. But the rest of the offseason to go, it's still a good pickup. I'd say the one new guy that has been brought in here that raises my eyebrows the most, without question, is Azeez Ojulari, and what the potential is there with hopefully no injuries. But the guy that I am most excited for is Zack Baun. We all know his story by now, how incredible it is. But this offseason, he went in as the hot commodity. I think you could read between the lines. I certainly did on this show when I talked about Howie Roseman's comment at the Combine about how you got to take away from this spot to give to this spot. And when he was done talking about moving money and allocating it to a linebacker position, I mean, I read between the lines, and that's what I got out of it, that the number one priority was Zack Baun. I said it on this show. I remember a day or two later, I'm reading it in the Inquirer. I'm not saying that was my influence. I'm just saying same thought process as other people that watch this and pay attention to this very closely. No other way to take it other than Zack Baun was priority numero uno for Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles this offseason. So what do? They ink him to a huge deal as a linebacker Just, again, a complete about face over the last 2 years here with the Eagles' philosophy. You don't pay a running back. You don't pay a linebacker. And here is the richest running back deal in history, and you just made Zack Baun the $53 millionaire. Okay, $53 million, whatever. It's a nice about face. The bottom line is, forget about the position and think about playmaker. Think about impact on a game. And it's still amazing to me that it took this long in this pass-happy era where they didn't value linebackers. And look, you could say, was T.J. Edwards worth this deal? No, obviously not. Was it Alex Singleton worth this deal? No, obviously not. They were. I mean, Zack Baun earned this deal. You're talking about a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. I'd say he earned it. You're talking about a guy that came in here with nothing but potential, and Vic Fangio tapped into him to find a guy that's an all-pro. I've referenced it many times, but Zack Baun, signing the contract here in Philadelphia, went over the Pro Bowl clause, like what he gets as an incentive for a Pro Bowl, and he's just like, like that'll happen anyway. Sign here. There you go. It could not have worked out better. Like yesterday, he got asked about teams game planning for him and how he's going to adjust to get things to the next level. He said, yeah, not even thinking about that yet. But that's, now that you mention it, I'm just going to keep bringing it, doing whatever I can, keep the preparation going. Absolutely loved what he had to say yesterday. Without further ado, Zack Baun, first question of the press conference was about the process of going through free agency, even though he didn't have to go through free agency. He just stayed put.
Yeah, I mean, I really actually didn't want to leave. Like, just what we built here, the culture here, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I was just a piece of the puzzle that was put into a great culture already established. The people that work here, the systems in place. Just everything I felt here this past year just felt right for me and my family as well. So really didn't want to leave and just appreciated everything we built.
I had the sense that Zack Baun didn't want to leave. I think anyone would think that. Super Bowl champion, valued here. He was kind of I know he was a Saints discovery, but the Eagles noticed he was that popular meme of the Ferrari parked at the trailer, the trailer park, and in the driveway there's a Ferrari. It's like, no, the Saints think that that's a Pinto, but we know it's a Ferrari. And they got him, and they brought him here, and boom, it's wonderful. He willed a interception in the Super Bowl, for crying out loud, people. I got the sense he didn't want to leave here. If you've been with one company and you know you could do more, you have confidence that you could do more, you don't want to stay at that company that's not giving the opportunity. You want to go to the company that's going to be like, oh, we see what you can do, and you're going to do it here. All the stuff you've dreamed about, that's right here in the birthplace of America, Philadelphia. Come on. Let's have some fun. That's what you get, and that's what you got. How great is that for Zack Baun? Now, as I've been saying, a lot of us have been focusing on what the Eagles don't have anymore. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Darius Slay, if you want. That's what we've been focusing on when it comes to the defensive side of the football. Isaiah Rodgers. That's what we've been focusing on the defensive side of the football. What the Eagles don't have. Oren Burks. What the Eagles don't have anymore. Zack Baun's taking it the other way. He will not have that negativity. Not on his watch. Oh, no. He's focused on the foundational pieces that are still here in Philadelphia and how they'll continue to have success with these foundational points.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is the pieces we have in the building. And that's credit to Howie and those guys upstairs for building a solid foundation of a base of a team where you can have guys leave in free agency and still have a solid base there. So I'm really excited for the pieces we have. Very excited for the guys that left as well. I'm very happy for them. But I'm excited for this new look of a team and a new look of a defense, especially in the pieces we have.
Here's the challenge for Vic Fangio. The challenge is we've shuffled the deck. We've moved the chairs around here. We've gotten rid of some chairs. How do you mold this again into one of the best defenses in the NFL? The big question, though, still remains. So that's the overall big picture as far as, all right, well, now you got a new corner. How's that happen? How do Quenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean keep getting better? Who's Reed Blankenship going to be working next to in the secondary? How does Zack Baun improve? I mean, the ceiling was way up there last year for Zack Baun. How much higher can he push that ceiling? That was something he was asked yesterday as well. He's just like, just keep working. Just keep working. No matter who's scheming for me now, I just keep working. But the big question for Vic Fangio is, how do you take this, whether you want to talk about foundational pieces or not, how do you take this new look defense and get it back to the same level of play that we were watching last year in the Super Bowl? And how do you get it to the same level of play that we were watching ever since week 4? Ever since you took that bye week. I mean, we could all talk about how well the offense played with Saquon, but the defense, they're missing a hell of a lot of fewer tackles. Nolan Smith started really turning on. The guy that I look at this year, I mean, it's obviously, I mean, Zack Baun, can he play better? I mean, everybody can improve, but if I get the same version of Zack Baun this year as we did this past season, well, then let's party. We'll be good to go as a fan base here in Philadelphia. But the guy I'm looking at, who played also at an extremely high level, especially after week 4, especially after Brandon Graham went down. But the guy that I'm looking at to really take that step up, that still has room to grow, I see as Nolan Smith. If Nolan Smith isn't the number 1 pass rusher next year for the Eagles, I think that's a failure. Now, ultimately, could it be Ojulari? It absolutely could. If I had to pick, I would say it's got to be Nolan Smith. After that, I go Ojulari. After that, I would say you have to look at a guy like Josh Uche, whether or not he can step up again. Those are the guys I'd be looking at to take that step forward as edge rushers. As of right now, before the draft, already solidified pros, if you will, to see if they can have a similar impact on this Eagles defense. I look at the guy. I think Quenyon Mitchell is going to be playing at a great level. How much higher can that ceiling be for him? Same thing with Cooper DeJean. All the things I just said about Zack Baun, you can apply to the 2 now sophomore season corners. Well, corner and nickel, because God forbid you do that in Vic Fangio's defense. But when it comes to a guy that still has room to grow, I feel that's Nolan Smith. The fact that I expected nothing from him last year, and he gave you so much, I look forward to seeing what he could do with that type of season already under his belt. What else does he have? And I also hope that he gets through the injury, having torn biceps. I think he played 12 snaps with torn biceps in the Super Bowl. How is he to come back from that injury? But I think he's the guy that has still a lot of room to push that ceiling higher and higher. And that's given the idea that he pushed it higher and higher as the season went on last year, at least by my count, who had zero expectations for him. Talk about after the bye week, became one of the best in the NFL. I think it was 4th in the NFL at pass rush win rate. So that's pretty spectacular. And then when Brandon Graham went down, I said it at the time, the guy that has to step up, the guy that has to take that baton is Nolan Smith. And I think he's going to have another opportunity to do that in the upcoming season, to keep running with that baton. He's gotten compared a lot to Brandon Graham in terms of personality. Let's see if he can up the game when it comes to getting after the quarterback at a more consistent rate. So that's what I'll look forward to him. Next person we're going to talk about is not a new face. Not even a little bit. Been here a long time. He has now outlasted Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, and Brandon Graham. He is the last man standing. Lane Johnson talked about being the wise old veteran in the locker room now. The guy that's going to have a great influence on all the young players, especially on the offensive line. Whoever's going to be coming in here playing right guard next to him, he will be the great influence. Whoever's going to win that battle. Lane Johnson, now your elder statesman. Here he is yesterday after signing his contract extension.
The Fresh Prince tweet yesterday. I'm curious, do you think it will be lonely to be the last guy standing?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a different, a little bit different. Even with Kels gone this year, it'll be another piece. With BG, same way it was with Fletch. The good thing about it is I know that if they're not here in the building, they'll be close by. So, that's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm happy for these guys. They're making a new transition into something else. And, yeah, man, I'm very happy to be a part of their journey and getting to witness everything that they've achieved.
He's going to be the sage. I find it just incredible that Lane Johnson can still play at a high level. I feel like Lane Johnson is the type of offensive lineman that is almost like, I think offensive linemen and referees have a very similar base for being judged, which is if I have to talk about you, odds are you're not doing a great job. Lane Johnson, you don't really hear that much. Every once in a while you hear, oh, he just mauled the hell out of that. He just took that guy out of the play. He hasn't allowed a sack. That usually you're talking about old linemen outside of Philadelphia, where we're used to them just performing at such a high level. Usually only talk about it when they give up a sack or they did something wrong. But Lane is just such a model of consistency, and he's been that throughout his career. And I couldn't be happier for him as a football player, as a person, as one of the great guys to talk to in the locker room, a guy he doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, he really carries weight with his words. His words carry weight. So knowing that he's going to be here in Philadelphia for another 3 years is insane. To talk about him as if he's a guy that just is going to play forever, as long as he feels like he can play at a high standard, not be banged up, not hold the team back. He's going to keep going, showing no signs of slowing down. It is amazing the level of play that he's at. He's going to be the elder statesman in the room. And that makes me feel great because you talk about the adversity that he's gone through. Head coaching changes, overall philosophies and offense. Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. Winning under 2 different head coaches. Off the field, and he mentioned this yesterday, off the field. Having his own personal struggles. If you're a young guy coming up, you're worried about playing in the NFL, Lane's got you. If you're a young player coming up, and God forbid you have off-the-field issues, Lane Johnson's got you. That's the standard that's been set by the 3 previous legends. I think, what were they calling them? The original 4? That's the standard that's been set. Now Lane Johnson's got that. I couldn't feel better about putting that in anybody else's hands. And also, all at the same time, a guy that's lost in all this when it comes to leadership, your quarterback, Jalen Hurts. How would you not want to play for that guy? Seeing him walk around, one of my favorite things to come from every little piece of mic'd up audio from the Super Bowl is him just going around telling everyone how important they are. Not just Saquon Barkley, but Devontae Smith was crying on the shoulder of his quarterback, folks. That's a beautiful thing. Wise beyond his years certainly applies to Jalen Hurts. This guy is supposed to have a diva of a wide receiver in A.J. Brown, and whether you want to believe, I believe that they're not as close as they used to be. I think that there was a lot of truth to what Brandon Graham had to say when he talked on WIP all those months ago now. But there they were, broing out after a Super Bowl victory. It speaks volumes when the leadership of your team can have a conversation that's tough, that's uncomfortable, and reference it throughout the year. All in the effort to not tell you that I know more than you, and you need to listen to me about how you need to be better at passing, and you need to listen to me about how you need to run a better route. The leadership on this team with Lane Johnson still being here is an amazing luxury, because I believe that this team is going to have great leadership for years to come. And I think a lot of that comes down to the head coach. I think a lot of that comes down to the culture that this team builds together. And again, everyone that talked yesterday was all about the culture. The culture here, Zack Baun, the culture that we've built here, Adoree Jackson, I heard a lot about the culture here in Philadelphia. Azeez Ojulari, the personalities in this locker room. Like, that's not nothing. That means a lot to these players. And over the last couple of years, that's all you've heard about. It used to be a negative thing. When Chip Kelly was here, you'd hear about this culture and be like, this doesn't sound right. This sounds gross. I don't like this culture. And then when Doug got here, that really started to instill. I really believe the culture in the locker room, it started with Andy Reid. And then it almost got taken for granted because he was here for so long. And then after the Chip Kelly era, Jeffrey Lurie, in some cases, it might have been a wanting to commit to the culture to a fault. With the whole open your heart, emotional intelligence speech. And it's ended up being a huge payoff because of the draw that it's become from a lot of these players that don't have that culture elsewhere. Look no further than New York Giants. Look no further than just going up the Garden State Parkway. There it is. Not so great culture. Guys losing sleep. Guys fleeing to come to the Giants. Like, I thought of this yesterday after Adoree Jackson mentioned. He talked to James Bradbury. James Bradbury crawled so Saquon Barkley could run. Like, that was the first, like, oh, James Bradbury, yeah, he's leaving the Giants. And he's going to be great with the Eagles for a year. And then he wasn't. And then Saquon comes here and has a historic 2,000-yard season and wins the Super Bowl. That's pretty damn good. Most yards ever, regular season, playoffs combined. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good year. And you win the ring. Yeah, that's a pretty good year. Got the most highest paid running back ever. That's pretty good too. It's pretty good too. Yeah, the culture here has definitely dictated a lot of victories. It has played in just as much as talent. Because, look, let's face it, a lot of these players are talented. But whether or not they're going to reach that full potential and get the most out of their talent, I think that's where culture comes into play. Because it allows them the platform and the space to be great. And when the culture is that great, you don't want to let anybody else in the locker room down. That's a huge draw for a lot of these players, and that's what a lot of those guys talked about yesterday. And I know to a lot of people, it might come off as high school Harry stuff. I think it might come down to things that just should be overlooked. To me, culture, chemistry, those are all things. Think about how there's a fine line between winning and losing. There's even a finer line between winning a Super Bowl and not winning a Super Bowl. Think about how many times you got close with Andy Reid. Think about a holding call in a Super Bowl. If that call doesn't happen, you win the Super Bowl. To put it more on the players, to put it more on the coaches, learning how to adjust to motion on the fly, you win the Super Bowl. That's 2 Super Bowls for Jalen Hurts' company, not just 1 at this point. I thought about this with Brandon Graham in the Earl Thomas category. Earl Thomas, individually, better football player. There's no argument there. But when you talk about who's more beneficial, you can't just say, oh, you draft Earl Thomas, maybe you win 3 Super Bowls, maybe you win 4 Super Bowls, you know. That's a great culture to have with talking about a dynasty, obviously. But there's such a fine line that could just change the course of history. Where BG's influence here, although in the beginning, of course, wasn't as impactful talent-wise and on the football field, it grew into something immensely, so special. You can't just guarantee, oh, take this player out, you put this player in, and all of a sudden you're better. Like, we're not playing Madden here. These are real personalities. These are human beings. And I was thinking about this with BG retiring, and like, if he's not drafted, do you even win those 2 Super Bowls? If he's not drafted, do you win 1 Super Bowl? I know when you just look at it from a talent perspective, oh, Earl Thomas, better player. But what Brandon Graham has meant to this locker room, forget about anything he's meant to the city. Just what he's meant to the locker room in 15 years here. That's pretty damn special. Changing the course of history. I'm sure, you've talked about, if you had a time machine, what would you do? That whole thing. And it's like, I'd do nothing. I wouldn't want to offset. There's a Simpsons episode on this. I want to offset the littlest thing that would impact history and impact the future. All of a sudden you get back to present day and you're just like, why do people have lobsters crawling out of their ears? What happened in evolution there? What did I throw off? It's the littlest thing. Culture's had a lot to play. I had a huge hand in that in Philadelphia. So loved what I had to hear from a lot of the new Eagles. Loved what I had to hear in the guys that were retained or extended when it came to Zack Baun and Lane Johnson. The versatility of Azeez Ojulari. Loved everything right there. And I look forward to seeing what Vic Fangio is going to cook up with Azeez Ojulari. It had been a minute since I played the meatball thing with Vic Fangio. And even longer since I hit that. Your Philadelphia Phillies. Here's what's going down. They got 6 more, including today, 6 more warm-ups. Yeah, 6 more spring training games. And I got Atlanta today at 105, Minnesota tomorrow, split squad, Toronto tomorrow as well. Both those games 105, 107. Then the Yankees 105. And then 2 more games. And then they start their season on Thursday in D.C. against the Washington Nationals. Zach Wheeler, opening day starter. So that should be a fun one. Yeah. I mentioned earlier, Ranger Suarez back issue. He ends the season. He has back issues last year. He's not going to start this season with back issues. You're not shutting him down, but he's not pitching. Little tweak of the back. See you later. You go rest. Let us know when you're ready. And that's when we'll unleash the fury. That can be Ranger Suarez. But what that means is that Taijuan Walker will most likely be in your rotation to start this season. So Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, Luzardo, Walker. At some point, Andrew Painter. And at this rate, unfortunately, at some point, Ranger Suarez. That's who's going to be starting things off. By the way, that home run I mentioned earlier from Brandon Marsh, great for 2 reasons. One is his first home run of the spring. Good for him. And then the other, coming back from that little injury, he said it wasn't anything serious. Comes back yesterday. Everything's good. So feel pretty good about that for your Philadelphia Phillies. Also, just a couple of numbers to run at you. I don't really look. Spring training numbers are spring training numbers. If they're good, that means they're winning the MVP. If they're bad, it means nothing. Kyle Schwarber, 105 in the spring. Trey Turner, 179 in the spring. This is what they hit. Rafael Marchand yesterday went 0 for 1 in his one plate appearance. He had 250 in the spring. Bryce Harper, going to win the MVP, obviously. 364 batting average and an 824 OPS in the spring to this point. Alec Boehm, 343 in the spring. Not too shabby. Max Kepler also back in the lineup yesterday after running into the wall awkwardly. He hit 344. Please surprise me, Max Kepler. Please surprise me this year. Be something special. 344 in the spring. JT Realmuto, 250 in the spring. Nick Castellanos, 152 in the spring. Bryson Stott, 300. Brandon Marsh, 290. All right. Yeah, right. Give me something there, fellas. Give me something this season. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. You want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase. Don't forget about Game Time Picks either. That allows you to filter out all the fluff and get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. So download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Before I get into the chat check, I mentioned I get a couple Flyers conversation. I did the show with Bernie Perrant last night on WBCB Radio, Merrill Reese's station, by the way. I've known Bernie Perrant now I met him 20 years ago. I've really gotten to know him over the last handful of years. When I say this is, I'm being genuine. I love Bernie Perrant. Bernie Perrant's one of those people that you're just around and you're happy. His happiness and positivity is contagious, which came in handy considering we did an hour show on the Flyers yesterday. A couple of the points we hit on. One, as you would assume, he's got confidence in John Tortorella. He's got confidence in Danny Briere. He's got confidence in Keith Jones. I have confidence in all three of those guys. This year was a step back for the Flyers. Right now, they're 9 games out of a wild card spot. Last year, they finished 4 games out of a wild card. 4 points out of a wild card spot. This year, right now, they're 9 games out of a wild card spot. Geez, 9 games. 9 points out of a wild card spot. John Tortorella did an interview with Ashlyn Sullivan on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and they're releasing it as a series. And the first 7 minutes I saw of it was John Tortorella talking about the disappointment. And he says the number one thing that is the reason for the step back is Carter Hart not being here. Carter Hart is dealing with a very serious sexual assault charge in Canada as part of the juniors team. I believe he's waiting trial in 2 months, I think it is. So I don't want to go any further on that. I don't want to keep this to hockey. I'm sure that is a huge negative on the season. And he really went to that as a reason for the huge step back this year. Yeah, Carter, it was about a little over a year ago that he had to leave the team to turn himself into authorities in Canada. And since then, this year, the Philadelphia Flyers have literally the worst goaltending in the NHL. Statistically speaking, the worst net minding in the NHL. The worst save percentage, to put it plainly, in the NHL. Funny thing to talk about over the last couple of games here, considering the last 2 games they've been shut out, which has not been fun. Since their win over the Winnipeg Jets, that shootout win they had against the Jets, they're 1-7. Bobby Brink had a hell of a game now a week ago, and that's really been the last good vibe from the Flyers. But the only good vibes that are really going to be coming from the Flyers is when their dead cap money is gone, which will be after next season. And any of these picks that they have, 6 over the next couple of years now, 2 years now, 3 years now, when any of those guys start to show promise, that's when I think Flyers fans will start to feel a lot better about the Flyers. Matvei Mishkov, listening to my man Jason Martinez talking about Matvei Mishkov recently, talking about people's expectation of being a point-a-game player. Would love to see it happen, but he's going to need teammates to do that. And by the time he's ready to do that, I don't know who's going to be around. Like, is Travis Konechny going to get dealt in the offseason? How deep into the rebuild are the Flyers going to go? Because right now, I thought optimism was going to happen after next year. If they deal anybody else, it feels like that's still going to be a far cry away. To quote John Tortorella on Carter Hart not being here, it sent things into a tizzy. That was the word he used. He talked about how this is going to be a time for Flyers, this is going to be a time for the organization where they got to eat a lot of, fill in the John Tortorella expletive. The thing with the Flyers right now is I wouldn't have confidence in a lot of other franchises realizing this, but I think the Flyers would realize this and do realize this. As they're eating crap and taking these awful losses and having a huge step back of a year, as all that's going on and they're eating it, so are the fans. The fans booed them after their loss 5-0 to the Carolina Hurricanes. The fans are tired of eating it. This has been a really disappointing year for the Flyers, especially after just missing out on the playoffs and then selling the way they sold at the trade deadline. You brought back some great assets, quote unquote, but you moved on from a guy that played his ass off for this organization in Scott Lawton. But you brought back another conditional first rounder. So it's I think Flyer fans are eagerly awaiting the end of this rebuild. But one point I made with Bernie last night, and Bernie had the same type of vibe, is I in no way, shape, or form feel like the Flyers are going through a process like the Sixers did. And the people that are in charge of the Flyers, I got a lot more confidence in them than I do anybody with the 76ers. So if anyone's going to draw a comparison there, I don't find it just. I'll say that. Speaking of those Sixers, by the way, I've been talking about perfect losses where they lose to keep the main thing, which the main thing in this case is keeping their top 6 pick, or bottom 6 pick, I should say. Or no, top 6 pick in the draft. But last night was not a perfect loss. A perfect loss is where they lose, but they give you something to look forward to, somebody that can help you next year. Quentin Grimes had 28 points in last night's loss to the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander-less Oklahoma City Thunder. He was sitting out the game. I wasn't as impressed with the 28 points from Quentin Grimes. 10 points came in the fourth quarter. Garbage time. They lost 133-100 to the Thunder. They gave you nothing to look forward to in that game. The only thing that was like somewhat eyebrow raising is how you say that. The only thing that was somewhat eyebrow raising was Chuma Okeke. Yeah. 15 rebounds. All right. Yabu came back. He played, so that was fun. Anyway, they lost terribly. That was an awful loss. In a season of terrible losses, that was an awful loss. 33-point loss. They lost to Abe Lincoln. No Guff Chet Holmgren. They lost that guy. But yeah, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander sat out the game. Most likely the MVP of the league. Good times. Good times. Sixers pulled it within 6 in the second quarter. And then at the end of the second quarter, the Thunder reestablished like a 16-point lead with an 8-2 run. And then in the third quarter, they outscored the Sixers 33-18. And that was pretty much it. That's when you could just hang it up after that. So that's your Sixers update. They got the Spurs coming up tomorrow night. So that'll be a great time. That'll be a great time. Let's get into the chat check now. Sean Kilrain, good morning. Jason A, what's popping? April, hello. Dev. Hello, Dev. Morning, Farzi. More coffee and an occasional power nap. There you go. Phillies lefty Ranger Suarez experiencing more back problems, which could result in a bigger early season role for Taijuan Walker. Welcome to the poop emoji show. Yes, thank you, Sean. Good times. Jason A, hello. It's always Suarez is back. Kind of alarming, right? William Stark, good morning, Farzi and company. Hello. Sean Gillespie, hello. Jeremy Von Scriva, hello. Jordan Davis on a contract here. Moro Joma is coming on strong, as well as a deep interior line draft. I'm very confident with Clint Hurt and coaching staff in developing these young guys. There we go, Jeremy. That's what I need, baby. Thank you. That's what I need. That kind of confidence. After BG's retirement, according to Sean Kilrain, the Eagles have just 4 players who are 30-plus years of age, only including players who were on the 53-man roster in 2024. 2 of them, long snappers and kicker. There you go. Dallas will be gone. Oh, Dallas Goedert will be gone, unfortunately. Can't allocate that much money to a guy who missed 6 games a year. It's a shame, says Jeremy. Jeremy, I concur. Mac Meek TV1, Stoutland University. Hell yeah. Jeremy's back. Josh Sweat was a nice player, but was too streaky. He'd go 5 games in a row last 2 years without showing up on the stat sheet. Adoree Jackson, an upgrade over Slay, Ringo, and Rodgers. Jake, yes. I firmly believe that. The biggest detriment to Slay is the injuries. The availability just wasn't there. And I'm talking about this year, like going into this year. I think Slay is going to be an absolute bust. A $10 million. I love Slay. Love him. But when it comes to 35-year-old Slay, I have no parts of him in Philadelphia. No, thank you. As far as how they're going to perform in the upcoming season, I think Adoree Jackson is going to have a better year than Isaiah Rodgers. I think Adoree Jackson is going to have a better year than James Bradbury. I think Adoree Jackson is going to have a better year than Keely Ringo. I think James Bradbury is going to have I think Adoree Jackson is going to have a better year than Slay in Pittsburgh. So that's where I'm going with the upgrade there. Extremely high on Ojulari, says Jeremy. He will be Zack Baun. He'll be this year's Zack Baun. All right, 22 sacks, 48 career games, and he's going to get paid in 26. I hope so. That only helps the Eagles. Now will they draft a safety at 32? Interesting. That's SC Birds fan. Jason A. Lane is incredible. No way he's not a Hall of Famer, but the Eagles need to retire 55 and 65 when they hang him up. I know that's a thing. And since football has opened up numbers to everybody, like, linebackers don't just wear 50s, or 90s, I guess. Whatever. I'm not big into the retire number. If anything, the number should be like on pause for 10 years just to dictate to a generation that was 55, that was 65, Pin 9617, good morning. Charles dead. Return to present day. Why is Biff running the world? You're the one that wanted me to get these. You're welcome. Only person who deserves retired number since Jeffrey bought the team. Dawkins and Kelsey. They were great on the field, in the locker room, off the field, especially in the community. That's true. If Lane plays past his contract, we may have to place him on the Eagles Mount Rushmore, right? Wayne the Pain, ready for the NFL draft. Hell yeah, Wayne the Pain. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. I mentioned the Phillies 105 today against whoever the hell I said they play. Now I'm blanking. Was it Tigers, I said? I don't know. They play some team. But anyway, they start in a week. Their regular season openers in a week. Flyers are back on the ice tonight against the Capitals. How many goals will Alexander Ovechkin get is the question. 8 shy of Wayne Gretzky's 894, a number I never thought would be passed. Considering goalie pads, I never thought it'd be passed. But Alexander Ovechkin's going to do it. Who knows? With the way the Flyers have been playing, maybe he does it tonight. But that's who the Flyers got at 7 o'clock in D.C. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's wonderful to have you guys along for that ride. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow morning for the Farzy Show, and then back with you guys tomorrow night as well for Locked On Sports Philadelphia's Locked On 76ers postcast. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you.